All right, Shalawam. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered across the four corners of the earth. I'm your brother Kalak out of the Great Millstone Atlanta camp, coming to you again with another Lord willing edifying video. And in this lesson, we will be going over the laws of the Lord and how they are not done away with. You have the Christian church of today, so-called Christian church, that would pretty much have you to believe that the laws of the Old Testament are done away with because after Yahweh's sacrifice, he pretty much did away with it. But that is not true. All right, the Lord Yahweh's sacrifice was to cover the sins of the elect. All right, but nevertheless, we are still to keep the laws of the Lord to the best of our ability. We are in these corruptible vessels. This flesh is subject to sin. And then also, as the Israelites, we are living in the land of our captivities, which all of these lands promote sin. So the Lord knows that you wouldn't be able to keep the law perfectly, but you are still to try to keep it to the best of your ability because the ways of the Lord are perfect. That is the standard for how he wants humans to conduct themselves on the earth. The Lord does have a way, and he has things that are prohibited. So starting off here in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord Yahweh my power commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. So this is speaking to the Israelites, which today are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as you Israelite foreigners that may look like the other heathen nations, but according to the seed of your forefathers, you trace back to Jacob. So this is speaking to the Israelites. They are the Lord's chosen people. And here, the Lord has given his people, the Israelites, his ways, the laws. And the laws of the Old Testament are basically the cheat code for how to live on the earth. And so the Lord gave that to the Israelites, his chosen people, and he did not give that to the rest of the nations. And so he did that to sanctify his people Israel so that they stand out. All right? Reading on in verse 6. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. So this is why the Lord gave his law, statutes, and commandments to the Israelites. He wanted it to be so that the other heathen nations could come and say, look at these people, look at their ways. Let's follow after them. And that is what's going to happen. When the kingdom of heaven is established, that is exactly what's going to happen. In this movie that we live in, the Lord had the Israelites fall from glory. He had us go off. But in the end, we are going to have the law, statutes, and commandments put in our inward parts. And we're going to get into that here shortly. Deuteronomy 4 and 7. For what nation is there so great, who hath power so nigh unto them, as the Lord Yahweh our power is in all things that we call upon him for? So again, going into how the nations were to look to the Israelites to say, dang, look at these people who is their power? Like, look at how they're prospering. So that was the intent behind the Lord giving the Israelites the law. It is not a burden. It is the cheat code for how to live on the earth. All right. How to be perfect. It is the way of the Lord. He is perfect. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 19 and 7. The law of the Lord Yahweh is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord Yahweh is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord Yahweh are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord Yahweh is pure, enlightening the eyes. Again, the law of the Lord is good, it is perfect, it is pure. The intent behind it is for life and prosperity. All right. right now the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, all right, pursuing to Job 9 and 24. And the wicked is Esau, Edom, pursuing to Malachi 1 and 4. And so in this current society ran by Esau, all right, that he doesn't uphold the laws of the Lord, although he professes to be of the Lord, all right. Esau, Edom doesn't establish the laws of the Lord in this land, and that's why you see nothing but death and decay in Babylon the Great, America, in other lands around the world, but where Esau has been there. But had the law been in effect, all right, we wouldn't be in this state we are in now as a society, all right. And it's 2025. You can look around and you can see that the human experience is absolute BS right now, all right. And that's because the laws of the Lord are not in effect. But the Lord allowed this to happen, all right. This is the Lord's movie, and it's going to get better. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. The whole duty of man is to keep the Lord's commandments. All right, fear him. You know, a lot of people on the earth today, they don't have the fear of the Lord. They don't really have a regard for the Lord's ways, and ultimately that's because they have been blinded. All right, when you have the fear of the Lord, that is actually a gift. The Lord has given you the ability to fear him and to keep his ways to avoid destruction. And the commandments of the Lord, they lead to life, all right? You can't go wrong by keeping the law. So-called Christians today would have you to believe that the law is something that was like a curse, but it's not. You can never go wrong by keeping the law. 1 John 3 and 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. Sin is transgression of the law of the Old Testament, all right? And it's never been done away with, you know? People say sin this, sin that. What is sin? It is transgression of the law. Romans 3 and 28. Therefore we conclude that a man is that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Is he the power of the Jews only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, of the Gentiles also. So here it is speaking of how we are justified by faith, all right, and not by the deeds of the law. And that is true. The standard now is faith in Yahweh Shai, in his death and resurrection. However, the law is not done away with, all right? And we're going to get into that reading on. But here in verse 29, it says, is he the power of the Jews only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, the Gentiles also. And those Gentiles are speaking of the Israelite foreigners that were scattered amongst the heathen, took on those heathen ways and were likened unto heathens. They became Gentiles. All right, but not the actual heathens themselves. The Lord never made a covenant with the actual heathen nations. He's not dealing with them. All right, so those Gentiles are speaking of Israelites. Reading on, Romans 3 and 30. Seeing it is one power, which shall justify the circumcision by faith, and uncircumcision through faith. Do we then make void the law through faith? Yahweh forbid. Yeah, we establish the law. So there it is made very clear that although the standard is faith in Yahweh Shai, we do not make void the law. Through faith, we establish the law, meaning keep it to the best of your ability. All right, and that's what faith would drive you to do. Having true faith with it, which is a gift given from the Heavenly Father according to election. Having true faith and being able to believe on these scriptures and these promises would drive you to want to keep the law to the best of your ability. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, chapter 17 and 25. Return unto the Lord and forsake thy sins. Make thy prayer before his face and offend less. So this is what the Lord wants the Israelites to do, is to return unto him and offend less. The Lord understands that we are incorruptible vessels subject to sin. All right, but we are still to keep the law to the best of our ability. Offend less. All right, do the best you can to keep the ways of the Lord. Yes, he understands we live in America, we can't keep the Sabbath day perfectly. Some of us have to work. We can't keep all the high holy days as we were supposed to, because to be honest, we don't even have the resources to be able to keep some of the high holy days. All right, but we still keep it to the best of our ability through faith. There are plenty of different laws as far as mixed linens. We can't keep that perfectly. There are laws as far as like women on their cycles, different technicalities with that. We're not able to keep it perfectly. The standard is faith. Nevertheless, we are to keep the laws that we can keep it to the best of your ability. Why? Because in the kingdom of heaven, the law will be put inside the inward parts of the Israelites, and they will be the standard over all the earth in the kingdom of heaven. Hebrews 8:10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. Sorry, so that lets you know this is going to be with the Israelites. I will put my laws into their minds and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a power, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. So in the kingdom of heaven, the Israelites will be given new immortal bodies with the law, statutes, and commandments written inside them. We will be programmed in righteousness. And that will begin with the elect. All right, the elect will receive those bodies first. 2/3 of the nation of Israel will be destroyed on this side for following after the heathen, but then they will be reborn in the kingdom of heaven through the loins of the elect, and they will be reborn with those immortal bodies programmed in righteousness. You will not even be able to have a wicked thought. Isaiah 2:2 is how it ends. And it shall come to pass in the last days, all right, this is speaking of the kingdom of heaven, that the mountain of the Lord Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall come, and many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord Yahweh, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord Yahweh from Jerusalem. So, just like we read about in Deuteronomy 4, where the Lord's original intent was for the Israelites to be an example to the rest of the nations, that's how it's going to end. With the new covenant, the Lord is going to give the Israelites those new immortal bodies, and then we will be able to be that example once we are programmed in righteousness. And then, as it says here in verse 3, that the heathen nations will come and say, let's go to these people and let's learn from them. Let's take on their ways. And this is in the kingdom of heaven, all right? The Lord Yahushua is going to return on the earth and set up a government, a functioning government on the earth. And the law from the Old Testament will be the standard, all right? And it will lead to peace and prosperity all around the world. So I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, this was edifying. I'm going to end it by giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Once again, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalawam.